Doctor Who is back! After 18 months and just a single series, we've got one more left in the bag, one that is technically a continuous story. Personally, I disagree, since the key to time isn't, but each to their own, I guess. Colin Baker is by far the actor who has been given the shortest stick in all of Doctor Who. After previously appearing as Commander Maxwell and actually getting to shoot the Fifth Doctor, a title Colin loves to boast about, he spends his first episode as the Doctor being an absolute tosser, almost killing his companion. His first series is wrought with complaints of cheap tackiness and over-the-top violence. He has to wear a costume that is almost universally disliked, except by me. And then Michael Grade, the controller of BBC One, and a man who hates sci-fi, wants the show to be taken off air just because. Even though Doctor Who was topping the BBC's viewing figures and making the most in outside revenue of their entire lineup.
We've got the ratings here, because apparently when it was axed, to use the tabloid expression, it was beating Match of the Day and Wogan at the time in the ratings.
Was it really?
You don't care, do you?
No, not really.
And then there's this. Yikes. Doctor Who couldn't have sunk any lower, despite the fact that Season 22 had some absolutely incredible stories. The BBC had just had enough, or at least Michael Grade had. So now Colin is back, for the last time, giving it all one final go with Nicola Bryant by his side, and this time he's on trial. Do you see the parallels there? To be honest, £8,000 well spent. Let's not lie here, this is the absolute best model shot the show has ever had. The space station's design is marvellous and the camera work is excellent. And the opening theme, brilliant. It feels like they've dunked the microphone into water and pressed record. Honestly, a fantastic change. This episode is credited as The Trial of a Time Lord, despite the fact its true title is The Mysterious Planet. Or at least it is nowadays.
At last, Doctor.
Am I late for something?
I was beginning to fear you had lost yourself. Sit down.
One thing I never understood is why the Time Lords made the courtroom incredibly dark just to brighten it up. I get that it's to show the Inquisitor's presence, but those people in the jury can't see. Here we have our main cast for the next 4 stories. Madam Inquisitor Darkell, the Doctor, of course, and the Valeyard, his prosecutor on behalf of the High Council. The Doctor tries to tell them that he's Lord President, he can't be put on trial, except he isn't, since he hasn't visited Gallifrey since the 5 Doctors, and that was a whole regeneration ago.
Since you willfully neglected the responsibility of your great office, you were deposed.
Oh. Was that legal?
Perfectly.
To be honest, I'm not surprised he's been deposed. So, the Doctor is on trial for interference, again, and the first piece of evidence is his work on Ravelocks. The Doctor and Peri are finally getting on, After a series together, they've really cooled to each other, and while a lot of people credit Big Finish for making the Sixth Doctor not Lysa, Trial of a Time Lord does the same. A lot of his hurtful comments are just jokes, though he does also have a massive disregard for Peri's life. The pair are there because Ravalox is very unusual. It has the same mass, rotation, and angular tilt to Earth. It also looks the same, sounds the same, and has no birds. It also has Marble Arch Tube Station. Hold on. The Doctor and Peri aren't the only duo here, as we have the wonderful Savalom Glitz and Dibber, who quickly make friends with the locals. Of course, the Doctor doesn't put up with this crap, and realises that Peri is missing. The Valeyard gives a rather cryptic reply of, "She's where you left her." Then he says what we're all thinking.
Well, can't we just have the edited highlights?
For some reason, Peri decides to split up with the Doctor, and he just lets her, for curiosity's sake. I know I said he's not Lysa, but trust me, he is. Predictably, she's kidnapped. By the same people that Glitz and Dibber have just met, as it happens. Glitz heavily overestimates his charm, so is kicked in the balls. Okay, he doesn't get kicked in the balls, but isn't that a funny thought? He also heavily overestimates the stupidity of the savages.
It must be dismantled.
You must think me a fool!
Down in the bunker thing, the Doctor is immediately beaten by a work crew who tie him up for stealing water. He literally just picks it up. Even worse is that he's going to be stoned to death. At least he gets to meet his stoners. Not the correct word. One of them is the reader of the books, who has Moby Dick, the Water Babies, and UK habitats of the Canadian goose. Thrilling reads, I'm sure. Then the Doctor is left on a cliffhanger.
Oh! Why'd you stop it at the best bit? I was rather enjoying that.
I'm sure you were.
Clever, eh? That trick with the umbrella.
Leading the Villiard to up the inquiry to a trial.
Expected takes people by surprise.
Hear how the Doctor takes pride in his interference. Hear how he boasts. This is not the reaction of a responsible Time Lord.
We are all aware of that, Valeyard. What is the point you are trying to make?
These proceedings started as a mere inquiry into the Doctor's activities. I'm suggesting now that it becomes a trial.
I don't know why it didn't just start as a trial, but okay. We also meet our main villain, the L3 robot Drathro, known to the Ravalox population as the Immortal. Despite seeming benevolent after he saves the Doctor, he is quite the opposite. But his design is absolutely awesome, one of the better large robots. Unfortunately, he's accompanied by two annoying lads who remind me of Romulus and Remus, even serving the same purpose. During all this, Peri meets the tribe on the surface, revealing the leader's name to be Katrika. She's actually quite nice to Peri, even offering her husbands.
Husbands? Plural?
Peri meets Glitz and Dibber, who show her the light converter. Thing is, I can't understand why this shot has a big brown line over the screen. I think it's meant to be wood on the door, but it just looks horrible. Glitz is the biggest sarcastic I've ever seen, and is just hilarious. He brings out the ridiculousness in every situation, and I absolutely adore it. Reminds me of Luke Goldrin a bit. Katrika reads the fires and sees anger in them, which is stupid, as fire is always angry. Have you ever seen a calm fire before? But they also say that Glitz needs to be burned alive. Not too bad then. This story is somewhat self-aware, and that goes for all of Trial of a Time Lord, since when the story just gets a bit stale or diverges from the main plot, someone in the courtroom points out to the brickyard, and then we skip ahead. But the scrapyard always...
The prosecuting counsel's title is the Valeyard, not the brickyard, backyard, knacker's yard, or any other kind of yard.
The Valeyard always brings us back on track, with some reason as to why it's relevant. It's surprisingly effective. Unfortunately, the Doctor's field is not black light, but springing traps and tricking robots is. At the same time, Glitz and Peri do the same, running above and below the ground. Glitz and Peri manage to make it to the tunnel, and Dibber blows up the transmitter. Good old Dibber. The Doctor, on the other hand, has earned a friend along the way. As it turns out, the head of security, Merdine, is secretly helping people escape, so Balazar, the reader of the books guy, goes with him. Our heroes are united with the hunters hot on their tail, and somehow Dibber has made it as well. Must be a sprinter. But their luck has run out. They're trapped between the savages and the L1 robot. Or has it? The tribe, or at least some of them, are people Merdine has freed. meaning we have more allies now. This is where Darkel makes a pretty funny joke.
Are these unpleasant scenes necessary to your case? I find primitive physical violence distressing.
So do I, Mom. Especially when I'm on the receiving end.
Obviously referencing stupid public attitude. And to show how high and mighty the Time Lords are, of course. The fact that the Doctor is a star traveller with no guns and actually trying to repair the totem is a welcome surprise. But either way, he is a star traveller and therefore a heathen. So is imprisoned, giving us a great shot of the L1.
You'll see the last of him as well.
Shut up and stand in front of me when I keep an eye on you.
And an incredible explanation.
Doctor, the experience of third parties can also be monitored and accessed if needed, as long as they are within the collection range of a TARDIS.
Oh.
So pretty much every Doctor Who episode is in the Matrix. They've managed to explain it in lore. The Doctor recovers from L1 and mistakes Perry for someone else.
Oh, my head hurts abominably, Sarah Jane. Where are we?
I'm not Sarah Jane, I'm Perry.
Then snaps back to his old self.
Get this thing off me!
I've been trying to.
Thing is, now that Katrika has killed the Immortal, everything is there for the taking underground. Except she hasn't, because that was just the L1. Drathro is in L3, meaning they're going straight into a trap. I wonder if there's an L2 knocking about somewhere. Oh, and this spearman cheers alone, thought I'd point that out.
The spoils of triumph are ours. Now think!
It doesn't matter whether it's a trap or not, since they're all going to die anyway. The black light converter is breaking down, meaning an extremely large explosion. So Glitz and Dibber...
The remainder of that evidence has been excised, my lady.
Excised? I'm here to watch Doctor Who and review it, not to be told I can't see something, mate. Now I've missed loads of context. Now Merdine's gone and shot that guy I definitely knew the name of. Oh well. With Merdine, the road to the castle is straightforward. The only roadblock is the tribe, who have already made it, discovering that Drathro is alive. Turns out he has electric powers, and Jesus Christ, that is bloody dark. Best thing to counter people who hate violence on TV is just to put more violence on TV. Yeah.
That you change it for the garment of quite another sort of yard. That of the knacker's yard.
What the hell is a knacker's yard?
The sleepers found a way into the biggest net of information in the...
What is going on?
Are you serious? Okay, this bit is acceptable, but only if I find out at a later date what's happening.
The sleepers found a way into...
He said Matrix. He definitely said Matrix. Okay, I think I can piece this together here. So, Drathro is in charge of the 3 Andromedan sleepers, all of which are now dead because the Andromedans never found them. They never found them because Ravalox, Earth, was moved a few light years by the Time Lords and scorched, all because the Andromedans had somehow gained access to the Matrix and stolen some of its secrets. Because the Andromedans never arrived, Drathro continued his duties. His reasoning for not repairing the blacklight generator is that without it, he would cease to function, and being put as leader of the underground, he's essential to it. So without him, they would be directionless, so therefore he is necessary. And if it is left to explode, then everything could potentially die, but since there's never been a blacklight explosion before, nobody knows how powerful it is, so everything will be wiped out. From a machine's perspective, it makes perfect sense. From the perspective of a viewer who is watching a show originally made not to be aired multiple times, it is too bloody confusing. Either way, the Doctor saves the day. Drathro is destroyed in an amazing sequence, and the people of the underground are finally free. But the secrets are also destroyed, though it doesn't look all bad for Glitz.
Pure silicone.
The hardest known metal in the galaxy.
And the most expensive. What's more, there's got to be a couple of tons of the stuff.
I'm way ahead of you, my son. You know we could clean up on this job very nicely.
So the Doctor has saved the universe. Good for its trial, hopefully. This is not the end, however, because as the Valiard says...
Finished. I barely started.
Well, for nothing more than your future in the legal profession. I only hope your evidence gets a little better.
Oh yes, Doctor, much better. The most damning is still to come. And when I have finished, this court will demand your life.
Honestly, I think this is one of the best that we've watched so far. Other than the incredibly confusing underplot, is that what you call it? I suppose secret plot is a good term. There's nothing to complain about. The setting is mysterious and leaves you wanting to continue the series on to the end. The characters are very well written, especially Glitz and Dibber. They are actually really, really likeable, and I'm happy to say that Glitz at least isn't done yet. Drathro as a villain is perfect. You can understand his motives but still disagree with him, since he is incredibly wrong. And then there's the Valeyard, who right now is only a villain because he opposes the Doctor. We also get the mystery through the omissions by the High Council. Why have they been put there? What's the real reason for this trial? If the Time Lords really wanted to pick the Doctor up for interference, surely they would have done it by now. All valid questions. Then there's Peri. Sweet and wonderful Peri. Having Peri as the constant throughout the Baker era is really what keeps the show relate to the past, and she's done wonderfully. I didn't talk about Peri in Caves of Androzani because she was too new, and I didn't talk about her in The Twin Dilemma because she's too busy getting strangled. It's kind of hard to work in how great of a character is when she's being abused constantly. Peri is essentially the Sixth Doctor's rock, keeping him sane and on the right track. Sometimes she is screaming, sometimes she is smart, but not often. She's supposed to be a botanist, but from memory this only ever comes in useful during Mark of the Vrani. Peri is just really a lovely character, and fills the compassion void that the Doctor leaves, because he has little to none whatsoever. A really lovely character. I'm sure she'll be okay. This story is also hilarious. I think it's the most that I've laughed so far.
I have an uncanny knack with aging females, Dibber. One look into my eyes and they start to melt.
I have studied the fires, and there is anger in them.
The spoils of triumph are ours.
That of the knacker's yard!
So that is The Mysterious Planet. By far one of the best Doctor Who stories I've watched, period. And tomorrow it's going to get even better. We shall continue our journey on trial. I'll see you then.